I'd like to propose a toast.
To me?
Yes. Does anybody still wear a hat? I'll drink to that.
This is Musical Talk.
Musical Talk.
The UK's independent musical theatre podcast.
Musical Talk. The UK independent musical theatre podcast.
Well, hello, welcome to Musical Talk. My name is Nick Hudson. I'm sitting across the legendary Esta Charkham. Hello, Esther. Welcome to Musical Talk. Casting agent, director, producer.
Golly, that's a bit of a build-up, Nick. But yes, I think I can rise to all of that.
And radio presenter as well.
And radio presenter, because I present show tunes on the Wireless, which is Age UK's own radio station, which interestingly has 150,000 listeners.
Wow.
So, which is rather good. Their problem is, of course, it's a charity, so they can't podcast because they can't...
So they can't pay.
No, they can't pay either. But they can't afford to pay all the licence fees for a podcast, which is a shame. So my show goes up once and is repeated in the small hours during the week, and that's it. And then all it does is sit on my computer, or the playlist sits on my computer. But I fell in love with musical theatre when I was 4 years old, when my parents took me to see something called Love from Judy. Have you heard about Love from Judy?
No.
Love from Judy was the musical version of Daddy Longlegs, which was a classic play by an American writer called Jean Webster about a girl in an orphanage who was fairly badly treated. Not quite Miss Hannigan and Orphan Annie standards, but she fell in love with the shadow of a man called Daddy Longlegs, who became her benefactor, and of course in the end she married him. There was a film of Daddy Longlegs with Fred Astaire and Leslie Caron, so there was a lot of dancing with shadows. And again, I think there has possibly been a musical of Daddy Longlegs since then, but this was Love from Judy, and I think it was by the same team that wrote Meet Me in St. Louis. I can't remember any of the songs, but I can tell you that June Whitfield was in it as a girl, and I can also tell you that there was a little girl as one of the orphans called Barbara Deeks, who went to the Ada Foster Theatre School.
And became Barbara Dixon. No,
became Barbara Windsor.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that's what I can tell you about that.
So pre-Stratford days.
Oh, yes. I mean, Barbara was an Ada Foster babe, as was Elaine Page. Or Elaine Page, as she was, or Elaine Bickerstaff, as she was when I first knew her, when she was at the Ada Foster School in Temple Fortune with my cousin David. And from then on, that was my love affair with musical theatre. I have to say that before then, my parents were madly in love with musical theatre, and the first real show they had seen, other than Choo Chin Chow, was, of course, Oklahoma, and then Annie Get Your Gun. And I grew up on the 78s of Ethel Merman and Ray Middleton.
No salad dates in there?
No, that's later.
Oh, okay.
I'm old, sweetheart.
Well, you don't look it.
I'm old. No, I was born in 1949, so Annie Get Your Gun, I think Annie Get Your Gun was in London with Dolores Gray at the Coliseum then, which had Lionel Blair in, did you know?
No.
Yeah, singing a song called Who Do You Love, I Hope, playing a character called Tommy, the kind of Juve in it. And Irving Davis and Paddy Stone were the lead dancers of that. So I grew up on the 78s of Ethel and Ray, and by the time I was 2 years old, I could sing you all of Annie Get Your Gun. I could do I Know What Comes Naturally. It was always my party piece, followed by You Can't Get a Man with a Gun, which I've done most recently.
Bit of a disturbing title, though. It's also a clever play on words, though. You can't get a man who has a gun, or you can't get a man by using a gun. Which
I think it was probably the furthest thing from Irving Berlin's mind, because he was, a very provincial Russian Jewish boy who happened to write music. So, we could put that connotation on it, but I think in those days you didn't. And besides which, if anybody heard Ethel Merman's voice and looked at her...
Most people could hear Ethel Merman's
Yes,
voice.
Exactly. Why would they, want to go anywhere near her? She'd be very scary.
Did you ever go to any of the lavish pantomimes? I know they did Aladdin at the Coliseum and things like that.
I didn't do Aladdin at the Coliseum. My lavish pantos were the Golders Green Hip. And that's where I got what I call red and gold fever. Do you know what red and gold fever is?
It's either an illness or...
Well, it is an illness.
A metaphorical illness.
It is a metaphorical illness, yes. It's when you see for the first time huge, thick, red plush velvet curtains swagged in gold trim, and they swish back and they show you the opening number of a pantomime, and you are blown away. Your breath is taken away. And that was, with me, the first time I was taken there to a proper theatre. I was 18 months old. And it was Arthur Askey and Elizabeth Webb in Cinderella. And the story is told that Arthur Askey as Buttons came to the apron of the stage and said, and now it's time for us to invite all the boys and girls who'd like to sing a song up on the stage. And my mother always says she turned to look at me to see if I wanted to go. And I was gone. I was on the stage where I gave them full rendition of Judy Garland's Zing Went the Strings of My Heart.
You were bitten by the bug, literally, the performance bug.
18 months old, yeah.
Musical prodigy, I think, by the sounds of it.
Well, yes, except that I could sing very loudly, but not very tunefully.
Ethel Merman, yeah.
Well, it is, well, right. And then Georgia Brown, of course, after that. I became completely besotted with musicals by the time I was, it was 1961, March 1961, so I would have been 11. My birthday treat was Oliver, and I was utterly and completely mesmerised and blown away by it. I then saw it over the years another 12 or 13 times. I wore out my long-playing record of Oliver and can still sing you every lyric that Nancy ever sang, every note, every Georgia Brown, as long as he needs me, like, you know, the worst pub singer in the world.
It's like Tony Newley.
Well, yes, and that was my other, that's also what I'm besotted with, is Anthony Newley, when again, and I was 1958, I bought my very first 45 record, which was Newley singing I've Waited So Long, and became besotted with him as well. So it was Newley and Bart were my idols, and of course in my grown-up years, my later years, I got to know them both, and so that was very thrilling. Lionel always used to say that if only I had been old enough when he was writing Blitz, that I could have actually been Mrs. Blitzstein. So again, he actually used to say to me occasionally at a party, what was my lyric after so-and-so and so-and-so? So then I'd tell him.
It's a very sad story for Lionel Bart. Huge success with Oliver. I mean, he didn't even cope with that success, could he?
No, he couldn't. No, not
and he was quite young, was he?
I think he was quite young. I mean, when did Lionel die? I think about 1989, 1990.
No, it was in the mid-90s, because he was involved with the big revival of Oliver.
Yes, he was, because Cameron gave him back.
Yeah.
Cameron gave him back the rights, which was lovely, which did help him very much in his later life, and also, of course, was the reason that the Lionel Bart Foundation was able to be set up. And indeed, you know, it still is, and it's run by Lionel's nephew and a lawyer called John Cohen, and
no relation.
No relation. No. And they're enormously helpful. They give bursaries to musical theatre students, and actually, I couldn't find some music for one or two of the Blitz numbers, and I just dropped John Cohen an email, and it came back scanned the next day. So, you know, that's where Lionel's archive is, and it's really important
because he's of that kind of same era as Brickus and Newley, these
Absolutely.
kind of humming composers that don't know the specific art of writing music, but the tunes they can hum are bloody brilliant. Because they're not thinking about it.
No, of course.
You know.
But you know there was a huge court case, don't you, with Lionel and Rodgers and Hart. Lionel wrote a song called Things Ain't What They Used to Be for the show Things Ain't What They Used to Be, that was at Stratford East, which is coming back, as well as Together With Oh What a Lovely War. And if you hum Things Ain't What They Used to Be, it is very similar.
Can we have a demonstration?
No, not from me, you can't, because I'm tone deaf. Not from me, but Mountain Greenery. The notes, the tune itself is really, really similar. And there was a court case that went on for some time. And I don't know how it was ever resolved. I think it's probably on Wikipedia, isn't everything? About how it was resolved. But it did set him back a little bit. But then that was before Oliver, so...
Now, my history isn't great, but did Twang come after Oliver?
Oh, Twang came much later.
Do you think he was put back by that a lot?
Oh, I'm sure he was. But also he was completely out of control with Twang. You know, he didn't know what day it was, what he was shoving up his nose, or, you know, drinking or any of that. He was, he was out of control. Everybody was fired. There was no book. I went to see it. I'm one of the few people that saw it. I went with a crowd of friends from school, and we sat in a box that we got incredibly cheap because nobody was booking to see it. No, it went, once he had kind of left Stratford East, as it were, it became Oliver, then Blitz, which, again, I went as a 13-year-old to the opening night at the Edmonton Regal Cinema, which was the only theatre big enough in London to house, big enough out of town to house the set for the tryouts before it came into the Adelphi. I think Maggie May came after that, and then came Twang. And Maggie May was also at the Adelphi, and Maggie May I remember really clearly too. I mean, and of course, you know, years after that, John Junkin and Jeff Hughes, who were in it, became, you know, great chums of mine. It was one of my favourite songs ever, a kind of chorus number that the Dockers sang years before Billy Elliot and the Miners, called They Don't Do That, They Do, They Don't, which is a great song. Have you ever heard?
No.
The Maggie May album is fabulous.
Catchy title, though.
Yeah. And they've also got, interestingly, he'd written it for Georgia and she didn't do it. Originally, she did take over, but it was Rachel Roberts who didn't sing, but who was one of those actresses that made it work. And it was about a Liverpool prostitute, interestingly. But then, you know, people would say, oh, who wants to hear what musical theatre, story of a, Liverpool prostitute? Hello, Pretty Belle, Pipe Dream, you know, they're all musicals about prostitutes.
You mentioned Elaine Biggerstaff earlier. Now, you were quite vital in EVITA? Is that...
Well, yes, I worked on EVITA, yeah. I was the resident casting director on EVITA. And they didn't... Bob Swash, bless him, did the whole thing himself, but then called me in, and I did about 5 or 6 recasts with Mr. Prince, which was really exciting. And I've always was told that it was between Elaine and Diane Langton. Because it was always going to be Julie, who I went to school with. Unbelievably. I went to Bronsbury and Kilburn High School with Julie Covington. She was 2 years older than me, and she didn't know she could sing until she went to Cambridge. And Pete Atkin and Clive James, who were in the Footlights, kind of auditioned her and said, can you sing? Can you try this song? And then this fabulous voice came out. I mean, we did know she could sing at school because she did a school concert together with Twiggy, who I also went to school with. Isn't that amazing?
Wow.
A state school in Kilburn. Julie was going to do it, and then in the end she changed her mind and she didn't do it. And she wouldn't have been right for it. Yes, she could sing it, but physically she wasn't right for it. She was tall and broad-shouldered and very handsome-looking, where it did need a petite girl with a big voice. And Elaine had such a terrible time, being out of work after Billy. You know, I remember seeing her at a performance of a chorus line where, she hadn't worked for ages. And I think she was just doing, and Jonathan Cohen could tell you this, she was doing something called The One and Only Phyllis Dixie for television, playing one of the fan dancers, together with Patricia Hodge. They were playing these fan dancers, and that's when the auditions were going on, and she kept going on and on and on for the auditions, and getting there and getting there and getting there. And the word is, and I don't know how true this is, that down to the last 3 or 4, and I think it was Bob Swash that told me that Diane just didn't show up. She had some domestic trauma, and so it was Elaine's. And then, of course, it became apparent that she couldn't sing it all for the whole week, and that was the first time ever, certainly in my experience, that we got alternate performers. Who was the first alternate? Was it Jackie Chappelle? I think it was.
Don't ask me.
Yes, I know her, darling. It's all such a long time ago. But I think it was Jackie Chappelle. Whatever happened to... I don't know where she is now. And then Marty, of course, who again was another girl from northwest London. Who
has extended her telling us on a Sunday.
Absolutely. Good for her. She's 2 years older than me, and it's just fabulous. I love Marty. And Marty went to another school locally. Interesting that all these girls came from my area. She went to St Helens, and she was my cousin Richard's girlfriend. So I've known Marty since I was 5 or 6 as well. She was also at Ada Foster, but she was cast very early on. She and Elaine. Now, did Marty do Roar of the Grease Paint, or was it just Elaine? Marty certainly was opposite Tommy Steele in Half a Sixpence. And Marty also, I believe, sang it for Julia Foster in the movie. Rather sadly, she was overlooked for the movie, which is a shame.
It's fascinating to hear you being so involved at all the important times of the British musical.
I suppose so.
From the Bart days, and that's where it really kicked off,
yeah.
and then rock opera days of EVITA and stuff like that. But and you're now an educator and sort of casting.
Well,
agent,
I haven't.
aren't you?
Yes, I mean, I was a television producer for a lot of years. And then kind of in 2001, when some planes flew into some buildings in New York, I just thought, and I had a project in development which was called I'll Take Manhattan. And I just thought, you know what, somebody's trying to tell me something. I shouldn't be making film and television anymore. I just need to do something else. And I went away and I thought about it, and I went to a life coach and realised that actually, and because I'd always gone into drama schools and directed musicals in drama schools, that perhaps that's what I should be, because I had then, you know, kind of 35, 40 years worth of experience, so perhaps I could put it to good use. And so I decided to start a theatre school and became kind of Mama Rose, really. And I started with 12 children. We have 120 children at our school in West London, and we have another 120 on the waiting list. And I am Mama Rose, and I do shows with those children, and I do Sing Out Louise, Smile Baby, all of that goes on all of the time. Yeah, so that's what I decided to be, and from that I've become an agent, and now, as well as the child performers that I look after a lot of young performers. I have a boutique agency with about 30, 35 adult clients as well.
And it's a great time, because there's lots of kids shows now playing.
There are. Interestingly, my children don't dance well enough to be in Matilda or Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, but they do act well enough to be in All My Sons at Regent's Park and Emil and the Detectives at the National, and to be in, you know, Steven Spielberg movies. So that's quite good. I've got one wonderful singer, wonderful singer, but she's become, you know, she's a straight actress. I think the fact that she sang would be a surprise to those people that hire her. But, you know, there's time yet.
Do you feel the need to up their dancing in a way, or are you happy the way things...
I'm happy the way things are. They can move. And to be able to follow a routine is fine for me. What I think is very interesting, that it is very rare that boys and girls who come from lanes or arts ed, think those that call themselves triple threats, yes indeed they are, but it is very rare for them to play the leading role in a new musical. Mainly, they are actors who sing and can move.
I think we can say that the Strallons are certainly triple threats of West London.
But they're exceptional. It's in their genes. And indeed, I used Scarlett.
Literally.
Yes, it is. Absolutely. I used Scarlett when she was 12 years old, and not as a musical theatre threat, as a child actress in a series I produced called No Sweat.
A bit of trivia, and this is a bit of a trick question. Scarlett has played Matilda.
Yes, on a... Now, yes, and I do know that. On what? On a video of some sort. A voice tape.
On an audio cassette of Matilda. Yeah, and I have it on my phone.
Yeah,
and it's,
Of all of them, I think Scarlett is the most extraordinary.
Have you seen her in
Candide?
Candide?
No, I haven't yet.
I haven't yet.
She sent me a message saying, "You won't believe what I can sing." She always, bless her, you know, it's like, it's about learning. I really want you to see this because my range has improved so much. You know, it's just, she's so serious about what she does. And I so admire it. And with Scarlett, it's not about being a star. It's about the work. And she really does have an incandescence, I think. I think she's very special, and I think that somebody should write a show specifically for Scarlett.
Tell me on a Monday. I mean,
Scarlett was 12 the first time we worked together, so, you know, and I adore her, absolutely love her.
So what do you think of the current state of the West End and musicals and new works and things? And
I think new works is really exciting. Do you know Katie Lipson and from Page to Stage?
Frequent guest on our show.
Oh, is she?
Yes.
Well, I think she's fabulous, and I've actually put something into the next lot, and I think I'm really looking forward to Merman's Apprentice, because apart from anything else, she's got David Burt to do David Merrick, which is really exciting. I mean, you know, who would have, and also I want to know who the little girl is. I did send a little girl for it who has a pop star daddy and a very big voice, but she, according to her mother, she hadn't warmed up and so didn't do as well as she should.
Do you think does the cliche of the stage mom still exist, or is it something you try to say you are not allowed beyond this point, or...?
Well, yes, of course it still exists. I was talking to Jessica Ronayne about it yesterday because, these couple of days there's some tube strikes and Jessica is casting things. I said to her, darling, have you got any contingency plans for tube strikes? And she said, no, I have no contingency plans. If they want to get here, they will get here. If they don't, they can't. And I actually did have a mother yesterday saying to me, well, I can't get there. Can't they make it another time? My daughter needs to be seen. And I had to say, I'm really sorry. If you can't get there tomorrow, then you can't do it.
And do you think it's the psychological thing of I wasn't a star, so I'm going to live through my children?
No. Well, there is that. But what's interesting is there are parents who come to us with their children. Oh, I don't know what to do. Oh, she wants to be an actress. Oh, I don't think so. We'd much rather have her an education. All of that goes on. And then after the child gets one or two jobs, suddenly the parent becomes really quite pushy and says, oh, well, I'm not a stage mother. I don't want to be a stage mother. You will tell me if I'm a stage mother. And of course, we gently try to extricate the parents from it. In theatre, it's really easy to keep the parents out because you drop the children at the rehearsal room or the stage door and there's a chaperone to look after 2, 3, 4, 5, however many children.
They're not allowed in, are they?
Not allowed in. The mother of Miss Gypsy Rose Lee is not allowed backstage in this theatre.
There should be signs up in all
well, they should. Yeah.
No mothers beyond this point.
That's for me, that's the most telling thing in the whole of Gypsy is the mother of Miss Gypsy Rose Lee is not allowed backstage in this theatre. But in film and television, very often, the parent gets to be the chaperone. And so they're there the whole time, and they're on the set, and they're in with the tutor, and they're in the dressing room, and it can be really disruptive. If it's a first job for a child, that's fine for the mother to go. After that, I try and persuade the mothers not to go. After all, you've got work to do. You've got the other children, you've got, your law practice, your exercise studio, your, whatever that you need to be at. We have licensed chaperones, who can take your children and sort that out. When it's a film with a lot of children in, like when they made Horrid Henry, that was brilliant because the children would be collected in a car by a chaperone and taken off and looked after and then brought back home again. But it can be a worrying experience. I mean, I had we did The Magic Faraway Tree for BBC Radio 4, and we had 4 children in it. And it was great because the parents delivered them to the studio, to our chaperone, and then the parents came to pick them up.
Could you imagine it at Emile and the Detectives?
Oh, I've been there. I'm at the stage door. I see it. Also, you see, he's a really fascinating author, Eric Kastner, who was a German writer. He also wrote something called Lottie and Liesel, which became The Parent Trap.
Okay.
Disney
is The Parent Trap.
Yeah, Disney's The Parent Trap. The Hayley Mills one, and then, of course, the Lindsay Lohan one.
Bless her heart.
And, of course, the Hayley Mills one did have more than one song in it.
By the Sherman Brothers, of course.
By the Sherman Brothers. Let's Get Together became the chart hit, but other songs were cut from it. But I think The Parent Trap would be the most marvellous musical.
I wouldn't be surprised it's been looked at by Disney.
Well, yeah, you do need twins. That's the problem.
Or very clever projection technology.
Well, yes. Yeah. Mm.
Yeah.
Let's
get together.
Why don't you and I combine? Yeah.
Anything else you want to add? I mean, do you want to tell people where they can find you on Twitter and things? And
yes, they can find me on Twitter if they'd like to. They can find me on Twitter. I am Esta Charkham. So that's ESTALACHARK at Twitter. That's me. You can hear me on the wireless, which is...
That's the radio to people.
Yes, that's the name of the radio station, is The Wireless from Age UK. You can find it on DAB in London or in Yorkshire. Otherwise, you can find it online. You can get to it through tunein.com or actually going to Age UK The Wireless. I mean, very good company. David Hamilton and Graham Dean are the other DJs on there. So, and Sheila Tracy, who does that fabulous big band programme. Mm. So she's on there as well.
A bit like EP, aren't you, with your...
I am like EP, without the laugh.
More without Malcolm.
Yes, and without... Well, she doesn't have Malcolm anymore. She has somebody else now. I have George, who's my producer, but I'm actually coming up. I'm going to do a 2-hour Dame Angela celebration.
Lovely. Who's now in our country at last.
Who's now in our country, and I have tickets for my 65th birthday. And I used to work, as another facet of my life, I used to work for an American producer called Alexander H. Cohen, who was the man behind Pretty Belle and Dear World. Of course, he did his money of both of them, but of course I know all about them fairly firsthand. And of course, Alex was the producer of the Tonys for television for very many years. And he was like a second father to me. And the year that I worked in New York, he was just wonderful to me. And I ran his London office as well. And he did Applause here. Mm-hmm. And I worked for him on that. And then he introduced me to Hilly Elkins, who did something called, oh God, what was it called? It was Frank Finlay. It was about Henry VIII. And I did that and we cast, oh God, that died without a trace. The other person I worked with and had the most wonderful time with through Alexander Cohen was Sami Khan. Do you know who Sami Khan was?
I know the name. The
great lyricist. Sami Khan, who wrote with Julie Stein and Jimmy Van Heusen and wrote for Sinatra and wrote, amongst other things, The High Hopes. I think, in fact, Sami is the most nominated lyricist ever in the Oscars. And he was wonderful. And Alex Cohen. There used to be, when I was in New York, there was a series at the Y in New York, which is not... It was the YH, which was the Young Hebrew Association, up on 92nd Street, where had a fantastic art centre, and they did a series of things called Lyrics and Lyricists. Mm-hmm. And we used to go on Sunday nights to these fantastic concerts and hear these lyricists talk about all the different composers they'd worked with and all the different songs they'd written for different shows. And one of them was Sami Khan, who was such a fantastic raconteur that Alex Cohen hired him, put the whole thing together and made a show that in New York was called Words and Music. Couldn't be called Words and Music here because of the Coward estate. And then was called Sami Khan Songbook, which we did at the New London as a limited run with Lorna Dallas. Do you remember Lorna Dallas? No, Laurel Ford. Do you know that name? No.
I'm not good on the
You're not, are you,
no,
Nick? No.
I will be.
Okay, they were great musical theatre performers of the 70s, and it was a huge success. And it was one of Michael Parkinson's favourite shows, and he used to keep coming back. And he had Sami Khan on the show as well. And the other thing that Sami Khan did was he wrote wonderful lyrics for special occasions to old songs. For my dad's 50th birthday, he wrote new lyrics to Lady is a Tramp called That's Why My Daddy is a Champ, which was just fabulous, which my dad has framed still on his wall.
It reminds me a bit of the... I think lyricists should be celebrated a lot because they're not. It's usually all about the music, which is all very well, but lyrics are a real fine art. And,
they really are.
And one of our co-presenters, Mr. Mike Dixon, conducted on TV the Don Black celebration concert, and what I liked about that is that Don was on it and talking about the art of writing lyrics. Whether he does it well or not is up to whatever you want to believe, but it was nice to hear someone talk about, I like finding rhymes and writing rhymes down and stuff like that. But then Richard Stilgoe came on, and he, during the course of the rehearsal period, had written a parody song about Don Black. So it's always nice that there are people who can do that.
Richard Stilgoe is very quick. I mean, Richard Stilgoe really is a satirist, I think. I worked with Don and Julie Stein on Bar Mitzvah Boy when it came to the West End, which was directed by Martin Charnin, of whom Joyce Blair said he doesn't get dressed in the morning, he gets into costume. And, I'm a great fan of Don, but actually, if you listen to the album of Bar Mitzvah Boy, there is a song called The Bar Mitzvah of Elliot Green, just the verse, and then the chorus goes bum 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 bum, bum 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 bum, bum 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 bum. And I thought, just a minute, what went wrong there? So when I listened back to it most recently, I thought, Don, what could you have been thinking? Bom, 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 bom.
Maybe it was scatting.
Well, yes, it could have been. Which was a lovely cast with the late, great Joyce Blair, who was never, ever given enough attention, just always thought of as the sister of Lionel. She was a great musical theatre leading lady. She actually, I believe, she understudied both Vivian Blaine in Guys and Dolls in the West End, and I believe, was she an Annie ever? She might have been too young to be Annie. But anyway, and of course it was an awful moment there because Maria Charles had been nominated for a BAFTA award for the television version of Bar Mitzvah Boy, and they didn't give her the part, and it was really difficult, and I was right in the middle of all this, because Maria was, of course, the original boobadoo, 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 wackadoo, wackadoo from The Boyfriend, you know.
Maybe that's why he went boom, 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 boom in the...
It could have been boom, 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 yeah, boom, 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 boom. But Bar Mitzvah Boy was a revelation for me, after which I read Garson Kanan's book Smash. And of course, after that, Jack Rosenthal wrote a play called Smash about the putting on of the musical.
And then there was a TV show
called Smash, which interestingly...
Which in itself is based on the novel as well.
It says it's based on the novel, which is fascinating, because the Garson Kanan novel was over 20 years ago, because he's been dead quite some time. So that was it really... I mean, I loved that, Smash, the TV show. Did you?
I like the first series, along with everyone else.
Yeah.
I love the Bombshell musical.
Yes, I love Bombshell, the musical. I'm not sure about Hit List.
No.
Apparently Hit List's been done as a concert. Did you know? A charity concert.
And so is Bombshell as well.
Oh, has it?
And I just wish they had books, because there might be a chance.
But nothing will ever... I remember Stephanie, God rest her soul, who played Stephanie Lawrence, who was another Evita. She was another of our Evitas. A wonderful Evita. And then a Mrs... What's her name in... the Bill Kenwright musical, you know what's it
Blood
called?
Brothers.
Yeah, Blood Brothers.
The Bill Kenwright musical. Bill Brothers.
Yes, you know, Bill's pension fund. Fascinating. Stephanie played Marilyn in a show called Marilyn, that was in the West End, again at the Adelphi. It was terrible. I don't think you can write a show about Marilyn Monroe. Amazingly, they've got away with Judy Garland. They got away with Judy Garland. I did think Tracy Bennett's performance was extraordinary.
Well, legendary figure musicals never really worked, have they? I mean, Evita and Jesus Christ being the obvious exceptions, but modern ones that are so in the public eye, and people have such an image of these people. I mean...
But The Boy from Oz is just fantastic. The Boy from Oz is fantastic. I mean, I saw Hugh Jackman. Now, there's somewhere where Judy Garland really worked as a character, interestingly, but then she wasn't the central character. But I think maybe if you didn't have Hugh Jackman playing Peter Allen, it might not have worked. Tracy Bennett was fabulous, but that play itself was in development for 5 years. I remember seeing it the very first time I saw it was at Edinburgh about 5 or 6 years ago. I told Tracy she couldn't go on stage without having her hands manicured as Judy because of, doing all that. And she, every time I see her now, she always shows me she's got manicured hands. But how that... the evolution of that show was just extraordinary until it ended up as we saw it at the Trafalgar Studios. And then there was one that a man called Terry Whale wrote for his wife, Leslie Mackey, who won the Olivier Award for doing it, and Bill Kenwright produced it, and that was at what used to be the Strand, which is, I think, now the Novello. And it ran for a long time, and it was an extraordinarily good and vulnerable performance, but there was only one Judy Garland. And I think that's difficult. And although Judy, you can do God knows I've seen Jim Bailey, the male impressionist, do Judy Garland, and any number of drag acts and any number of people do a Judy Garland with the vibrato and the quivering lip and throwing the head back and all of that.
Liza does a wonderful impression.
Well, she does, and Lorna does too. Marilyn was completely her own invention.
But I think the girls in Bombshell, in Smash, did a very good job.
I think they did a really good job. I agree.
It can never be a musical because they're in every single number.
Yeah.
And it would just kill them.
Yeah.
And it's a shame because that they're jolly good songs. I think "Don't Forget Me" is one of the finest 11 o'clock numbers, 10 o'clock numbers, whatever they're called. The song...
I need to remind myself of that. And I love the Mr. and Mrs. Mr. and Mrs. Smith, is it called? Yeah, I love that one.
But Esther, thank you very, very much.
You're very, very welcome.
For inviting me into your home.
We've had our hour. Golly.
We'll have you on again soon.
Please, that would be lovely.
And Esta Charkham, thank you very much indeed.
You're very welcome.